Cam Ward's final test before the regular season comes on Friday night against the Vikings. And while I'll have my eye on Cam, it's the rest of the offense that I'm going to be watching. I'll explain on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we're going to preview the Tennessee Titans' final preseason game of the year against the Minnesota Vikings. We got to talk about what we want to see from Cam Ward and more specifically, Tennessee Titans offense in this game. But also, we're going to go over some final position battles on the offense, on the defense as well. Before we dive into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. I'm going to be going live after the game on Friday night to break it all down. We got roster cuts next Tuesday. I'm going to do my last 53-man roster prediction. Before that, we'll be here to break down all the cuts, what the roster looks like. It could get really crazy for the Titans with all their waiver claims. So make sure that you stay locked in here with me on the Locked On Titans podcast and make sure that you don't miss any of the critical information that you will need over the next few days / week. But with that being said, I do want to dive into our discussion here on this final preseason game. Now, some teams are going to use the final preseason game as a way to just sit all of their starters. They've seen what they need to see and everything's fine. I think the Tennessee Titans need to go the opposite way of that. I think the Titans need to play a bunch of their starters, and we need to see a full version of this football team. I think Big Jeff earlier in the week said that he wanted to play in this game. I would expect Cam Ward to play in this game. I think a guy like Kevin Zeitler, a guy like J.C. Latham, a guy like Calvin Ridley, if they're truly healthy and just managing soreness because it's the preseason, then all of those guys need to play. I will continue to say that the Titans are not the Eagles. The Titans are not the Chiefs. The Titans are not, teams that have a ton of continuity and have played together and don't have a swath of young players that need to step up and play major roles. So when you're in the situation that the Titans are coming off a 3-14 season with a super young roster, with a rookie starting at quarterback ready to go week 1, I think the Titans need to take this opportunity to get a little confidence, to get a little momentum going towards the beginning of the regular season because, again, it's over now. Like, training camp is over. Training camp's last final practice was Wednesday. Okay, this is the final preseason game. There are no more joint practices. There are no more heavy, intense training camp practices. After this game, the Titans are going to be cutting down their roster throughout the week. They're going to be making changes to the roster and getting guys in and getting people acclimated and getting people comfortable in their new situations. And then after next week, it's literally game week, and they need to practice and prepare like they're about to play in the game against the Broncos because they are. So, time is gone, and I don't feel confident with where the Titans are at on offense right now. We saw them last week, and I talked about how Cam Ward played better than what people thought based on what the offense did. But the offense didn't. The offense was bad. We saw drops from wide receivers. We saw bad routes as well. We saw a false start from J.C. Latham. We saw a holding penalty. And that goes back to the week before that. The Titans were able to overcome those things because Cam Ward is so talented and he was able to complete passes, but the Titans got into 1st and 20. The Titans got into 3rd and 6. The Titans got into 3rd and 9. They had a holding penalty on a screen pass by Calvin Ridley. The Titans have not played clean, good offense all preseason. So, why would they be excused from this opportunity? So, for me, we can talk about Cam Ward and what I want, but at the end of the day, it's about the entire offense as a whole getting some momentum. And here's one thing to keep in mind. So, I talked to my guy, Luke Braun, the Brain, who is also one of my co-hosts on Locked On NFL, but he does Locked On Vikings. He's completely tapped in to everything Vikings. And he's saying that the Vikings are probably going to play, maybe not even some of their backups. They're going to play all low second string, third string guys the entire time. The Vikings are a team that doesn't want to play any other starters. Now, I think they are making a mistake as well because J.J. McCarthy needs the reps, but Kevin O'Connell is one of the best quarterback gurus in the entire NFL. He's what people thought Brian Callahan was. Kevin O'Connell is the real version of what we hoped Brian Callahan was, okay? And Kevin O'Connell, it's hard to argue with how he wants to develop his quarterback being in my position. You know what I mean? So I think that McCarthy should play, but I understand if Kevin O'Connell, one of the, elite quarterback coaches in the entire NFL, doesn't think that's the right move. Who am I to say no? But at the end of the day, with that being the case, with the Vikings having most of their backups in, their third string in for the entire game, this is an opportunity for the Titans offense to get some confidence, the Titans offense to have some success. Because guess what? We could talk about Cam Ward playing better than people thought last week, but at the end of the day, his offense in 3 drives scored 0 points. They had 1 first down. 3 drives against Atlanta's backups. And the Titans had 1 first down and 0 points. That's not an offense that's ready to go to Denver and play the best defense in the NFL in week 1. That's not ready. So I want to see them get some momentum. I want to see them build some momentum towards the regular season. Like, hey, we absolutely, and look, I know that if they play super well, then people are going to be like, oh, it's against the Vikings third string. I don't care. I don't care if they played against a high school team and played well. This Tennessee Titans offense, I mean, why would we take anything for granted? You know what I mean? Like, this team was awful last year. The offense has been awful for the Tennessee Titans for years and years and years. And we think that Cam will come in and fix that and at least make it exciting. And I'm hoping for that as well. But at the end of the day, this offense has proved nothing. And there's no reason to believe that Brian Callahan knows what he's doing. So I want to see the Tennessee Titans offense go out there and beat up on some third stringers. They should be able to do that, right? If the Titans offense goes out there and they play 2 drives and they don't get a first down and they don't score any points against Minnesota's third string defense, I'm going to come on the show and be concerned. And you guys are going to tell me it's just preseason. This dude always overreacting. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know, man. If it rained every day for the last 5 days and then it starts trickling on day 6, I'm probably going to bring my umbrella with me. Like, I guess some people just like to completely cut last season. Oh, it's a new season. Oh, like I see people in my comments on my show yesterday saying the Titans need 10 wins, 9 wins. Like, you guys are out of your mind. Like, the Titans aren't getting close to 9 wins. 10 wins? If you think Brian Callahan's only keeping his job, if the Titans win 9 or 10, go ahead and pack his bags and buy him a plane ticket. Get him a bus. They are not winning 9 games. Like, this team would be incredibly blessed and lucky. The heavens would have to come down for them to win 6. And you guys are talking about 9 and 10 wins. So, like, I don't care if it's Minnesota's third stringers. The Titans need to go out there and do something against them to prove that they can be better than, because I think the Titans' first string offense probably is pretty close in talent to some third string defenses in the NFL. Like, I think that some teams' third string defenses could beat the Titans if they had their starting offense and their third string defense could still beat the Titans in a regular season game. So I don't care who Minnesota plays. The Titans offense needs to have some success, and any success that they can have, I think, is positive momentum towards Denver. So with that in mind, though, the real battles that we need to pay attention to are happening in the depth positions on offense and on defense as well. We'll talk about what you need to keep your eye on as these roster spots start to close down. Today's episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, I'm going to be playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Yahoo has been in the business for a long time. They've perfected the draft day experience, the app that you use, all of that. And to celebrate their 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play Yahoo Fantasy, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing with the season around the corner. Now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, previewing the Titans' final preseason game. I almost said first. Don't want to go back in time for the preseason, that's for sure. But final preseason game of the year. Again, it's against the Minnesota Vikings. Finally a home preseason game for the Tennessee Titans. We talked about the expectations for Cam Ward and the starters on offense who I think need to play and need to play well, quite honestly. But now I want to talk about some of the depth battles on the roster, because at the end of the day, this final preseason game is going to be mostly about the depth and who wins these kind of last battles. I want to remind you of what Brian Callahan said earlier this week. He said most of the roster is concrete already. There are some open spots. He mentioned wide receiver, running back, swing tackle, cornerback, and stuff like that. I think there are some others in here that we need to discuss as well, but keep that in the back of your mind. Of Brian Callahan said that, there's only 4 or 5, maybe 6 roster spots that are actually up for grabs right now at certain spots. So starting on offense, obviously we need to start with Xavier Restrepo. Restrepo not looking good right now, not looking like a lock. If the Titans make some move, if they were to trade out of Van Jefferson, which I don't think is going to happen, but I guess you never know what could happen. If something like that happens, then Restrepo may have a chance. But we heard from John Fossil, Bones Fossil, and I mentioned this yesterday, but we heard from Bones Fossil at his press conference on Wednesday, and he literally said, I'm not confident in Chim Dike as the punt returner. Well, that means that they have to go with James Prochet. They have no other returner that they can trust at that point. They would have to go with James Prochet, and we did the roster math of the 3 vets with Ridley, Lockett, Jefferson, Io Manor, DK, Oliver, who's a lock to make the team at this point. And then if you add Prochet, that's 7 wide receivers. And at the end of the day, the Titans are not going to keep 8 wide receivers, which means Xavier Restrepo is cooked. This is his last chance. And here's the thing, what I'm looking for is they have to give Xavier Restrepo return opportunities in this game. The only way that he can make the roster is if he can return, because he's not going to be good on coverage units at his size and speed. You want the total opposite of Xavier Restrepo. You don't want small and slow. You want big and fast for special teams, like a Khalil Mullings. You know what I mean? 6'2", 220 pounds, fast. That's the kind of guys you want playing special teams. So it's going to be tough for Restrepo no matter what. The only special teams value that he could contribute would be as a returner, and they haven't really given him opportunities to do that in games. Maybe in practices, of course, he's taken opportunities, but not in games. So if they want to give Xavier a real chance to make the roster, and what's so disappointing to me is if you watch my film breakdown this week of the rookie weapons on the Tic Tac Titans channel, Xavier Restrepo was doing what Xavier Restrepo does. Getting open, understanding where to sit down in the zone, making people miss after the catch, just doing exactly what he's always done. And I've said it throughout the week. I'm going to say it again. I'll say it next week as well. I'm not going to have Xavier Restrepo making this football team. I thought he would be a lock to make it. I think it's a massive mistake to keep a guy like James Prochet, Bryce Oliver. These dudes are not going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. You're going to keep them over Xavier Restrepo. The odds of this coming back to bite the Titans is just so high that I'm like, I don't care if he's not a great returner right away. I don't care if he can go down and tackle someone on special teams. He can get open and move the chains and have a connection with your franchise quarterback. That, to me, is far more important than any special teams value, especially when you look at what it could mean going forward. It's just incredibly short-sighted, in my opinion, to operate this way. But this is what the Tennessee Titans are going to do because Brian Callahan's coaching for his job. So he doesn't care what's best for the Titans in 2 years. Brian Callahan has to win right now to keep his job. So, of course, when it comes to that stuff, he's going to favor someone who can help him right now over someone who can help Cam 2 years from now. But what do I really care about as a Titans fan? Cam Ward 2 years from now, when the Titans might actually be a contender for something. You know what I mean? So, with that in mind, obviously, all eyes on Xavier Restrepo. But at tight end, I think tight end is an interesting one. The Titans probably already have their mind made up on this, but right now, all we know is Gunnar Helm and Chigakonkwo are going to make the football team. After that, will it be Josh Wiley, who has more of a skill set like Gunnar Helm? Will it be Thomas Odukoye, who is more of your traditional only blocking tight end, not going to give you anything in the receiving game? Will it be David Martin Robinson, who gives you a little bit of both? He's a little bit bigger than Chigakonkwo as a blocker, but he also has some of that, explosiveness in his receiving skill set. The problem is I don't think David Martin Robinson is that good of a blocker either, especially from the preseason tape that we've seen of him. He's not that great of a blocker either. So it's really just about what skill set the Titans want to keep with that third tight end. I thought at times it would be possible the Titans would keep 4 tight ends, like they would, pick 2 of those guys, but I feel less confident about that now. I think the Titans do only keep 3 tight ends, and that makes it more interesting because, again, Wiley is kind of a hybrid. Odukoye is the pure blocker. DMR is more of a Chigakonkwo type. It would make more sense to go with the pure blocker for diversity of skill set, right, which is Thomas Odukoye. But Thomas Odukoye is basically useless as a pass catcher, and I don't know that he's that good as a blocker to justify that anyway. So I'm having a really tough time with deciding who I want that third tight end to be. And watching this preseason game play out against the Vikings, it might be kind of that final thing to look at and be like, oh, this guy was significantly better. I don't see how, they don't keep him. So it really does matter for these depth positions. And speaking of depth positions, we go to the offensive line. And a lot of the offensive line, I think, is set in stone. Quite honestly, I think at least 7 people on the offensive line are set. You have your starting 5. You have Corey Levin, who is Lloyd Cushenberry's direct backup, and then Jackson Slater, the Titans' 6th-round pick. I think Slater has been very impressive in run blocking during the preseason, and I don't think there's any way the Titans can let him go. He would absolutely get picked up on waivers by another team, especially with offensive line being such a tough position to find depth at. So it comes down to me. How many will the Titans keep? Is it going to be 8? Is it going to be 9? I think it's going to be 9. I think with Levin and Jackson Slater, there's one more interior offensive lineman. There's one more offensive tackle. And Brian Callahan even said swing tackle, which is their number 3 tackle behind the starters. That's what a swing tackle is. He is the backup to both of your tackles. The swing tackle spot is open. And that's going to be between Ali Udoh, Jalen Duncan, John Ojukwu, and Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon. And I personally, right now, based on what we've seen, when J.C. Latham was out at right tackle in practice this week, Ali Udoh played at right tackle. We heard how good Jalen Duncan was, and he was second on the depth chart. But when the Titans go to their second-string offensive line, it's Ali Udoh who's starting at left tackle, and John Ojukwu who's starting at right tackle. That's in the preseason game. So if in practice, Ali Udoh is filling in for J.C. Latham, and then in the preseason games, Ali Udoh is the backup left tackle, and then John Ojukwu is the backup right tackle, how is Jalen Duncan getting misconstrued as some guy who's played super well? Clearly, the coaching staff does not agree with that. So for me, I think Ali Udoh is who wins it. And I'll confirm that after the game and when we do my 53-man roster predictions. But I have a hard time including Jalen Duncan or John Ojukwu in this because I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's just time to move on to new people. Ojukwu's been around for a few years. He's no good. Duncan's been around for a few years. He's not any good. So I'm not saying that Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon, the undrafted free agent offensive tackle from the Florida Gators, I'm not saying he's going to be good, but I'm saying at least we don't know. At least we're not certain. Can we try something else? Maybe he could be good. We know Duncan and Ojukwu are not good enough. We know that. So I think it's going to be Ali Udoh, but that competition for the backup swing tackle spot we know is open, and I think Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon actually has just as good, if not better, of a shot to win that spot as Duncan and Ojukwu, So the interior offensive line, for me, like we said, we know that Corey Levin and Jackson Slater are going to make the team. They're both interior offensive linemen, so they can't have two more guys on the interior. I think Andrew Rupcich has been really, really, really good this preseason. He's been playing with the starters at right guard over when Kevin Zeitler has been out. So Blake Hance has been my favorite to win this number one backup guard job, but Hance was out for a couple of weeks with an injury, and Rupcich has played well. Rupcich has been with the team for a while. I know Blake Hance has tackle guard versatility, which may ultimately push him over the finish line, and he has history with Bill Callahan as well, but right now I think Andrew Rupcich, which would win that spot, but watching that position battle in this game, I think it's something that you got to keep your eye on. But with that in mind, let's talk about the defense. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. I've worked with BetterHelp before, and what I like the most is they have over 30,000 therapists. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people, and finding the right therapist for you is critical, and it's easy to do that with BetterHelp. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down the Titans' final preseason matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. We talked about Cam Ward, the starters, what my expectations are there and why it's important. Talked about the battles to pay attention to on offense, but now we got to talk about the battles on defense where a starting position is actually up for grabs. Before I dive into it, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Football. You have hosts Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk, the Data Queen, getting you ready for your fantasy draft to become the most informed manager so you can take home your trophy in your league this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But the linebacker one battle, still not decided. It was James Williams at first. He had a pretty good lead. Cedric Gray has battled back, and I would say that Cedric Gray has the lead right now. Brian Callahan still didn't confirm who won that battle. I would imagine we get that news next week after this game is complete. But, you know, watching Cedric Gray move around, Cedric Gray looks a little more urgent, a little quicker out there, but James Williams is a little bit bigger, a little more physical. I would be interesting to see where the Titans ultimately land on this. Just got to watch them play. Been watching them play all offseason, and I'll be honest with you. I know. Negative Nancy Ty, but like, everyone's like, oh, linebacker's now a strength. Like, it's crazy, but look, we don't know that Cedric Gray or James Williams, either of them are any good. They're fighting with each other. That doesn't mean that they're good linebackers in the NFL. So, like, calm down on saying that the linebacker group is now this big strength for the Titans. Like, you don't know that. You can't know that. Like, and I don't even see how you could logically conclude that at this time. So just keep in mind that these guys are battling with each other, but just because one of them wins the battle doesn't mean that they're good. That still has to be proven. But with that in mind, that is the number one thing that you should look at on the defensive side of the ball for sure. And those linebackers have played a lot in the preseason. And I would imagine that they'll play a lot again in this game. But finally, cornerback 4. Not finally, we go to the secondary. Cornerback 4, Darrell Baker versus Marcus Harris. Marcus Harris has been pretty impressive. Marcus Harris has had some good plays out there. Now, his best play of the preseason was him getting absolutely roasted on a route and then a bad throw, letting him catch up to it and knock it away. But nonetheless, he's got good speed. He looks like he knows what he's doing, and that's critical for a rookie. And Darrell Baker, Darrell Baker played fine last year in place of L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie. But Darrell Baker, at the end of the day, was a guy the Titans got off the scrap heap from the Indianapolis Colts. Not like Darrell Baker is impeachable. So I would prefer if Marcus Harris got the cornerback 4 spot, because I would rather the Titans draft pick, who just got drafted, be a better player than a journeyman like Darrell Baker Jr. Now, the Titans likely will need both of them to play pretty solid football this year at some point, but, if I had to choose who I wanted to be better, I would take Marcus Harris every day, but that's a battle to watch there. Finally, safety 5, I think is a very interesting battle. You're going to have the top 4, Hooker, Woods, Winston, Diggs. There's your top 4. I think the Titans keep 5 safeties, and it's either going to be Mike Brown, who I've been a big fan of as a depth safety for the last few years, or it's going to be Kendall Brooks. Kendall Brooks, number 33. He looks like baby Jamal Adams out there when he's playing. Now, he was in a yellow jersey all week this week, which is no contact for a non-quarterback, so he must be banged up in some way, but hopefully he's able to play and go out there, because I've been very impressed by Kendall Brooks, and although I am a Mike Brown stan, I think that it would still be exciting if Kendall Brooks was able to beat him out and get that spot. I think Brooks has just really popped off the tape when you've watched this preseason. But final preseason game, then we move on to the regular season. Again, I'll be live here after the game ends to break down everything that happens. And then next week, we'll start the week with my 53-man roster prediction. And then cutdown day is on Tuesday. And I'll be here on Tuesday night to go over the Titans' first initial 53-man roster. Don't get too comfortable with the people who make the 53, because the Titans are going to hit the waivers pretty heavy, in my opinion. But with that being said, that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.